So this is a pretty unfortunate and pretty crazy story here. So Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk was called a grifter by Paula Jean Swearingen. Now, most of you guys, I'm sure, know who Paula Jean is. If you don't know who Paula Jean is, you're probably very new to the progressive YouTube sphere. But she was actually one of the first Justice Democrats. I think the very first Justice Democrat was Cori Bush, but nonetheless, it's irrelevant because Paula Jean was one of the first wave of Justice Democrats. She ran against Joe Manchin in the primary. She lost, of course. She ran in West Virginia. So, she was somebody who's running there, who's a progressive running there, heavily supported by Kyle of Secular Talk, as well as progressive media in general. So she has now called him a grifter. Now, what is a grifter? A grifter is somebody who is a scam artist or a liar. So you could be a grifter in any sphere of work or product. But specifically in politics, what being a grifter, in political commentary and things of that nature is, you come out and say stuff that you don't actually believe for some kind of personal gain or monetary gain. So that's being a grifter, when you come on and you lie about what your personal positions are because of some kind of other interest that's influencing you to do this. So for example, if you were to start getting money from the Koch brothers and all of a sudden you start saying stuff that you don't actually believe because they're giving you a bunch of money, you are a grifter, you are lying, you are being a scam artist. So it's a very, very heavy allegation to pin against Kyle. So here's how this started. So Kyle sent out a tweet. He said, "It's very healthy that the online left is split between two camps, the AOC over-defense squad and the AOC derangement syndrome types. For the record, I despise you all." So he's actually very correct about this. Now, this is something that Kyle has made a career on, which is basically being in the middle of usually two hyper-partisan camps. Okay, he's always done this, whether it was with like the New Atheists, against the progressives, or left and right and all that stuff. This is kind of what he's done. And so it is absolutely true that this is the current dichotomy that exists right now. There is the AOC over defense squad, and then on the other side there is the AOC derangement syndrome types. I feel like there's people who will defend literally every single thing that AOC does, and then there's the camp that is completely deranged with anything that AOC does. So an example of this would be, her Met Gala appearance was obviously very stupid, and it's very concerning given that I think she was really enjoying being part of the elite. And it was something that made her feel really good, which is very cringe. But, obviously the over-defense squad is going to defend her, even though it was obviously a very stupid thing to do. But the AOC derangement syndrome types will just be saying crazy stuff like she was an actor or something like that. She was somebody who was set up by the DNC, or she was co-opted by the DNC, blah-de-blah-de-blah-de. So he's saying he's somewhere in the middle. Now, anytime you're in the middle, you'll get praise from people who are giving you praise for being nuanced. But in a situation like this that's extremely, extremely polarized, you're most likely just going to get shit from both sides who are pissed off that you don't agree with them. So what you're going to see here is there's a ton of people who are shitting on him because he's not saying that AOC is a sellout. Because most of the derangement syndrome types like Jimmy Dore have already gone that far. But, he has not. So that is the reason why this would happen. Now, Paula Jean responded to this tweet saying, "It's easy for you criticize now when you helped build the, quote, progressive illusion. P.S. We don't like your fake grifting ass either." So this is a very, very heavy allegation to make against Kyle Kulinski, to call him a grifter. Now, this must really hurt Kyle. He must be really, really personally feel like shit after this, because he had supported Paula Jean so much when she was running for office. Also, she was one of the very first Justice Democrats. So you got to feel some type of way about, like, damn, like this person has turned on me and is now going so far as to call me a grifter. It's not even like she's saying, I disagree with you on X issue. She's saying, you're a scammer, you're a fraud. And obviously, like, calling someone a grifter is pretty much like the highest allegation you could put against someone. And so grifter, the term, is getting thrown around pretty heavily now. There are obvious cases where people are obviously grifters, and then there are situations that are more confusing. So, like, for example, people who we know are obviously grifters. Dave Rubin is an obvious example. Kim Iverson is another obvious example. Candace Owens as well. These are people who are just saying stuff for the money or the fame. They don't actually believe what they're saying. And especially because they seem to have positions in the beginning that they completely seem to abandon as they started to get more money and fame. So those are obvious cases. But then you start talking about names like, Jimmy Dore or Glenn Greenwald or like David Pakman, and it starts to become a little bit more muddled as to whether or not they fit that mold. Like Glenn Greenwald, for example, he's anything that is liberal, he comes out against it no matter what it is. Now, the question is he doing that because of some kind of outside interest? Or is he doing that just because he has like a psychological desire where he gets like a really good rock soft dopamine rush from just shitting on anything liberal? And I honestly want to say it's the latter rather than the former, especially because he left The Intercept, which he was making a lot of money from because it was bankrolled by a billionaire. So I just don't know if he fits that mold, even though he does seem to, at least someone fit in there. And then obviously with Jimmy Dore, we know that he doesn't give a fuck about anything politics-wise. He just says stuff that his fans will suck him off for. So we saw that with Tulsi Gabbard not supporting Medicare for All, and yet he was trying to spin it like she was. He was also trying to save Tulsi when she had endorsed Biden. All of this stuff that we've seen from him that he's done on multiple different occasions. It's clear he doesn't care about politics. It's more about who comes on his show, more narcissistic things like what can he say that his supporters will support him for harder. So it seems like there's a lot of psychological things going on where people are, getting their rocks off through these kinds of things. So it gets kind of, the waters get kind of muddled. There is definitely no chance that Kyle Kulinski is a grifter. He's definitely telling you what he believes. The one thing about Kyle is you can't expect him to criticize his friends. Anybody who he has a personal relationship with, he's not going to criticize them. But that doesn't mean that he's going to change his opinion on issues. So, he's not a grifter. He is definitely not a grifter. But Paula Jean here, she's kind of gone off the rocker. Now, for a while, I think she was running for governor in West Virginia. Or what the race was. I'm not 100% sure. I kind of forgot. But she was just nonstop tweeting against Richard Ojeda, just nonstop. And it was like, obviously it would be fine to be tweeting about him to try to get him out of the race, but the way she was doing it was just kind of crazy. And now there's like the whole ketchup meme or whatever. But here's a tweet she sent out just a couple days ago. Flashback to when AOC acted like the rest of us matter. We knew that the Bronx, West Virginia, and people across this country had more in common than folks want to admit. Where's the hashtag OGAOC? Now it's pictures of AOC and Paula Jean. Now remember, at least some of you guys should have seen Knock Down the House, the documentary. I watched it. You see a part in there where, they're talking to each other and AOC is comforting Paula Jean as she lost her race. So, you would expect it would be on some kind of friendly level. This guy asked a question, when was the last time she messaged you? And then Paula Jean responds saying, right before she got elected, I guess I'll have to deal with gatekeepers and automated responses like most ordinary Americans now. That will teach me for supporting her like millions of us did. So, it's kind of, I guess, maybe a chicken and the egg situation, but again, it seems very similar to the Jimmy Dore situation where it's like, she's not messaging you personally, so all of a sudden you don't like her anymore because she's not friends with you anymore. It's like, is that politics? Is what politics about is whether or not a politician is your friend and sending you text messages about like the burrito they just ate or something? Like, I don't know. It's something very weird where these people, if they're not personal with you and they're not your best friend, you disapprove of them as politicians. It's very bizarre. If you don't go on Jimmy Dore's show, you're not going to be approved by Jimmy Dore. Maybe because you're not a progressive if you don't go on his show. But it's extremely, extremely cringe, and it's really embarrassing to see how these people don't really seem to give much of a shit about politics. It's more about personal feelings and emotion of like, man, if AOC was texting me still, then she would be a good politician and not a progressive illusion. So, just weird stuff. She's clearly off of her rocker, which is sad to see, because when you see stuff like this, it really is unfortunate, because, you had somebody who was a progressive politician who a lot of people knew and had faith in, and then, you turn out to be bonkers. It doesn't surprise me personally anymore, because I've seen this kind of stuff happen literally all the time. Like Tim Canova is another good example of this. Sometimes now we see Rose McGowan. Like, it seems like when people are exposed to like a lot of maybe trauma or hardship in the Democratic Party or whatever, they just fucking go insane and lose their mind. And then you turn it, like, some people turn into full-on MAGA people. Like, I think Tim Canova went MAGA. So it's like, I'm not surprised when this happens personally, because I've already seen this shit before. At this point, there's a trend. At this point, I'm surprised if this doesn't happen. Because generally speaking, I guess maybe intelligence is hard to come by, or emotional, intellectual maturity is hard to come by. I don't know. But, very concerning, and it kind of depresses the movement, I feel like. And, definitely a sad situation, but Kyle Kulinski is not a grifter.